Welcome back to Capitol Tonight. Leaders from both sides of the political aisle have been calling for Governor Cuomo's resignation for the last several months, and the news came as a surprise to some state lawmakers. Senator Zellnor Myrie joins us now. Senator, what was your reaction to today's announcement?
I think it's important we start this discussion off by thanking the women that made this possible. That, of course, includes the 11 women that came forward, but also includes our Attorney General, who, with a meticulous, detailed, and an independent and fair report, demonstrated that this type of behavior is unacceptable, whoever you are and whatever office you occupy.
That this report kind of laid bare was just a culture in Albany that has been allowed to permeate, not just necessarily over the last 10 years that Governor Cuomo has been in office. It's gone back further than that, and it is a culture of machismo, if you will, of masculinity, of a sexual harassment culture. And we've seen a number of state lawmakers who have also been caught up in sexual harassment scandals of their own. However, there has been some relatively new lawmakers, relatively recently elected lawmakers, who have kind of tried to change that going forward. Do you think that the culture of Albany has changed for the better? And with Governor Cuomo's departure, will it change even further, perhaps for good?
I think the culture is beginning to change. There is a lot more work left to do. And let me be clear, Nick, the culture didn't only affect the employees. That toxicity permeates into policy. While we have focused on the sexual harassment scandals appropriately, we have to recognize that this toxicity, this bullying behavior, this tyrannical behavior had implications for the cutting of Medicaid in Black and brown communities. It had implications for not fully funding schools throughout the state of New York. We had incarcerated people making hand sanitizer that they themselves could not use. And of course, tax breaks going to big real estate while we had record homelessness and people on the brink of eviction. So we need to fix the culture because it doesn't just affect those that walk within the halls of Albany. It has an effect for working families all across the state.
Well, let's talk about moving forward here. The incoming governor is Kathy Hochul. She is going to be the first governor from Buffalo since Grover Cleveland. That's a long time ago. I'm not quite sure how long ago, but back in the 1870s, 1880s. She's going to be an upstate governor. Are you concerned, even though Kathy Hochul has traveled around the state a lot, are you concerned at all about a governor from upstate New York, from Western New York?
I'm very confident that Governor Hochul is prepared to assume the governorship. I have worked with her on several issues. Just recently, we were at an event around gun violence with people in my district focused on this issue. I was just in Western New York myself, in Rochester for an elections hearing. So I'm not at all worried about her being from Western New York. I think it adds an important voice to our policy, and I look forward to working with the governor going forward.
Will Governor Hochul be good for Senate Democrats on a number of those issues that you just raised?
I think that Governor Hochul is well prepared and versed on this. Again, I look forward to working with her and my colleagues on many of the issues that we have been fighting for this past 3 years that we've been the majority.
Right. I know you've been working on some election law reforms in recent weeks, and you are looking to get some legislation moving forward, perhaps in the early part of next year. But from a policy perspective, what needs to get tackled now in Albany? Technically, the session's not in at this point. However, there are some ongoing issues that may need to pop up. Obviously, the spread of the Delta variant with COVID-19 is an ongoing concern, as well as, say, extending protections for tenants. There's an issue of federal funding being administered by the state kind of being dribbled out at a relatively slow rate. Is there anything that the legislature needs to deal with in the coming weeks?
Well, Nick, I think you've mentioned what is top of mind for many working families in New York. The eviction moratorium that has saved lives and has saved homes is something that we should be concerned about. We should also be concerned about ensuring that everyone is involved in our economy. There are 2.3 million New Yorkers with conviction records that are now unable to participate in housing, education, and job opportunities. We have some harassment laws that we need to fix as well that are appropriate for us to tackle. And I look forward to us convening as soon as possible to really help working families throughout this state have an opportunity at success.
You mentioned the harassment laws. We actually had State Senator Andrew Cuomo on the program the other day, and he did bring up the idea of perhaps even further strengthening some of that legislation. What would you like to see done?
I think one of the primary pieces of legislation we should be tackling in this area is extending the protection from the human rights law to legislative staffers. Right now, my understanding is that that protection only extends to staffers in the state offices. I think it's appropriate that we lead by example, have that protection for legislative staffers as well.
Can I ask you a question about from a politics standpoint? And I know it's still so very early, and a lot of what happened today, I think everybody in New York State is still kind of processing about what's going to happen next year. But obviously, the governor's race is going to be potentially top of the mind heading into 2022, and it's going to be even earlier considering that we've got a primary now in June for both parties. Is there a kind of prototypical candidate who you would like to see run for governor and be the new Democratic standard bearer going into the new year?
I think, like many New Yorkers, Nick, I am still processing the resignation and what those implications might be. But I think that we have to turn the page on the past 10 years in New York politics. If you have been wealthy and well off, you've done very well under a Cuomo administration. If you are part of a working family, you've had to struggle. So whoever looks to lead our state has to center the struggling, the marginalized, those who have been ignored throughout this administration. And I look forward to seeing who that is and supporting them if they are in fact centering our working families.
State Senator Zellnor Myrie joining us this evening. I appreciate it. Thank you, Senator.
Thanks for having me.